This week, we're hosting a new process party, and you're invited.
We're breaking down how to build revenue into your business model by working with trade vendors.
This is the professional upgrade you need because none of us are retiring off of design fees alone.
We've got tips to help you find vendors, set up accounts, and help clients see the value in the process.
Let's go. Hi, I'm Rebecca of Studio Plum.
And I'm Shaun of Renstead Interiors. We're interior designers
Turned internet friends.
turned real life friends.
Welcome to the Hot Young Designers Club podcast.
We're not that hot.
Or that young.
Every week, we'll be spilling the tea on how a new generation of interior designers can run their businesses.
Welcome to the club. Hey, Shaun.
What's up, Rebecca?
Oh, just my mom guilt. But that's another that's another day. Another discussion.
Moms giving guilt to their children or getting guilt from their children?
No. Well, kind of both. Now my Cecily's at the age where I feel guilty and then she rubs it in.
Like she knows she can manipulate you?
Yeah, she's like, it's so nice that you have time to spend with me right now.
Fine, kid. Just here's a big knife to cut my heart out with.
Yeah, we'll get into that.
Does she say that stuff to Terry?
No. Well, they're out on a little father-daughter date right now. It's just always, I don't know. It's this natural thing that time with dad is just bonus. I mean, he's very involved.
But you're expected to be the main time giver.
Totally.
Well, I can't exactly relate to that because my dogs don't care. Shaun's pretty good about giving me space. But then also he will say stuff like, "Oh, I'm glad we had today." And I'm like, "What?" Is someone dying?
We never know if each day is going to be
I
last.
know. I mean, how it's an upside that she even still wants to spend time with you and enjoy that because right around 11, that's going to change.
Oh my God, I know.
You're only 5 years away from the point where she wants you to get as far away as possible.
Literally yesterday, she went to school or in the morning. So she got dressed in one of her Punky Brewster, weird outfits with a purple cheetah print sweater on over tie-dye pants. And then she had some sort of overshirt, almost like a vest. I don't even know what it was. Probably a dress. Which, whatever, it was cute. And then Terry was taking her to school yesterday because he was off. So she comes in to say goodbye wearing my fluorescent yellow beanie that she stole from me. So she's already starting to steal my shit. She was going to dash out the door and took off whatever this vest thing was and revealed 6 inches of her abdomen that she was gonna trot off to kindergarten looking like
a crop top.
Miley Cyrus 2005. Excuse me.
Excuse me, ma'am. No. That's
Put
cute.
On something
nice try.
That. Yeah, no. I even asked her about it later. I'm so why were you trying to sneak out wearing that outfit? I just thought it looked cool, Mom. Gosh, she's 6, everybody, just by the way. Okay. Anyway, let's move on.
She is going to test all the patience you don't have.
And, be creative doing it. So it's really hard to, get mad when I, kind of respect some of the choices in a way.
You're respect, dog, you did it. You're smart enough and you figured out how to play the game.
That, or that's a really cool outfit, actually, if you were 22. It's a
rebel.
mess. Yeah.
What's
All right.
going
Well,
on the fizzle sizzle front?
let's get into it all. You can start.
Fizzle. Why does it have to be so complicated to get a freaking flu shot? I had my flu shot this week. It's just, why are so many industries so far behind this, like, appointment setting, make things quick and easy? And it's like, if you want people to go get flu shots and you want them to do these things, you have to make it as easy as possible.
Well, because it's not an industry that we really need streamlined. We don't need millions of people getting vaccinated anytime soon. So why would they even spend any time trying to solve that issue?
Like, why? I mean, I can't imagine why we should
fix
make it
now?
easy.
Like,
Why start
fix
now?
Yeah.
It's been fine.
Oh my God.
It was just extremely difficult to go and request it. And I know that for a lot of like retirees or other healthcare systems, you can just like walk into a CVS or other places like that. Well, my healthcare doesn't work that way because Shaun works for a healthcare company and I have to go to my healthcare provider with them in order to get that. Okay, fine, whatever. But I should just be able to literally walk in the door. Like, I know it's COVID times, but okay, fine. I can't. Can you please make it easy for me to call you and say, this is what I want, and I want to come in quickly? And don't throw up all these, well, it's only this or this, and between this and this, and we need this or this, and you have to do it this far in advance. And it's just like, okay, please.
And don't you always think of stuff like that when like you're having such a hard time and you're actually making effort? And then you think of, what if I was somebody who had zero flexibility in their job, was not technically savvy, didn't understand how to do the paperwork? Like,
right.
It's so hard. And like, we probably have more tools than a lot of people. Like,
oh yeah, they have an app. But the stupid thing is, in the app you can like make appointments and do all that, but not for that. And I'm just like, really? You can't add an inoculation thing? I mean, the whole experience was silly. It was just, then you go in and you're in there for like a second because it's literally just like boop and you're done. And it was just silly.
I recommend, if you haven't, listening to, it's going to be probably old by the time this airs, but the New York Times podcast, The Daily, had an episode about how we're going to get how the vaccines are going to be distributed for COVID. It's only like a half an hour, and it's really interesting because she's done a ton of research and kind of like talks through what that might look like.
Oh.
And like, they're going to have to try to do a national database to track everybody. So, because since it's a 2-part vaccine, you're going to need to have the same one.
Yep.
And have some sort of reminder system to get people to come back. Yep. I mean, the potential,
it's a big undertaking.
Fragility of the vaccines that are out there, like they have to be in, kept in a certain environment. And
yeah, the deep freeze ones are really going to be a challenge for a lot of places because not every medical group is going to be able to afford those freezer systems, and they're pretty volatile. So I mean, you would just
think
like
you can't even just go get one. Like, the issues that you're having for something that's been out in the world for decades, and now they're trying to do this new system that is going to somehow coordinate every rinky-dink doctor's office and national CVS. Like,
and they need to be giving out barcodes or something to people when they got it as like evidence that they got it, because that system's not going to be thorough. And
it's going to be required for some people at some point, like
for their jobs or for their school, or so you're going to need to show proof that you had it. And we can't depend on medical records completely because stuff gets lost in the transition, or it can take a while to request one as evidence they had the first part to give them the second part. It's a whole mess. So
it's exciting.
everyone's gonna have to, it's gonna be like half honor system based and the rest is gonna be a crapshoot. So I did get mine. I'm like right at the end phase. And I feel like people don't know that they run, most healthcare companies run out of available flu shots every year. There's only so many made. So
Yeah.
I mean, PSA out there to our audience that you need to get one. I'm not a healthcare professional, but I would recommend talking to yours and
Yeah.
getting used
And we're
to
not
this
going to get
idea.
into vaccination debates either, but
Yeah.
yeah.
And then on the sizzle side, if everybody wants a walk down memory lane that might make you cry in a good way, the Selena miniseries debuted on Netflix, and I was crying in the first minute.
Oh my God.
I don't know if anybody feels, I think it depends on if you were living through it as it happened.
Yeah.
Like through her music being on the radio, her fame, spoiler alert, something bad happens to her. and
Jasmine.
and then yeah, like I don't know if everybody knows Selena's story, so I'm glad that other generations will get to see it. A
What
good
year did
primer.
she die? Spoiler alert.
90.
See, I
I
feel
think
like, I mean, I definitely lived through it, but I feel like I wasn't
90,
up
95,
to
95.
speed.
95.
See,
She
anything
was
that happened
23 years
between
old.
1993 and 1998 are literally a black hole because I went to Chico State.
It's lost in a beer bong somewhere.
I mean, I just wasn't following.
I mean, so I feel like I I grew up where my best friend was Mexican American, and I would go to her house after school and we would walk there and we would listen to Selena, and it was just like I would be around her mom and her brother, and we were listening to Tejano music at her house, and I was just this like weird white boy who was best friends, and we would just hang out, and that was my introduction to it. And I know that everyone has a different experience with it. So far, we're 3 episodes into the series. It's a fascinating
The
fashion.
documentary or a reenactment?
Is a well,
Like,
I'm not going to say reenactment. It's a series, and they're taking some liberties because they're focusing on like the family so far as they're young, and you're seeing some moments of like 80s fashion, late 70s living. So you're
pegged
getting some of
pants?
that. Yeah, you're seeing some of that. You're seeing a lot of teased hair. You're
Oh, yeah.
seeing a lot of glitter and sequins on clothes. And honestly, I have to give the costume department some big ups because they're doing it. They have all of it. So
it's
so far it's good.
like The Crown. It's like a fictionalized.
Yes. Yeah. And I
Okay.
don't know how long, again, I haven't looked that far into it because I didn't want to spoil anything. I don't know how far this first series of episodes is taking us into the chronology of it, but I've liked revisiting it so far. It's been really cool. It won't make you won't be crying the whole time, but the first couple minutes, they know how to hit you. Like the producers and everybody knew what they needed to do to get you fully invested. And then you start seeing some other things. So it
Okay, show.
has a good cast in it. So, and also, yeah, primer, go watch the J-Lo version if you want to really kick off things right.
Want to really get your Selena on.
Yeah. And then yeah, I think you could totally get, you know, everything done. I mean, and then you could go back and listen to go back and listen to the My Favorite Murder podcast. I think they have. I'm okay. Now I'm gonna get hit by somebody. I'm pretty sure they did an episode of Selena. And if they didn't, go anyway. And yeah, but I'm pretty sure they did an episode early on the My Favorite Murder podcast for Selena Quintanilla.
All right, I'm gonna cue that up. I bet Cecily would love those little crop tops.
Oh, she'll love the costumes. And then maybe you just skip the final 25 minutes of the movie.
Yeah. Some sequins, bell bottom.
I mean, there's some cool, like the slouchy boots that were like all the rage, like slouchy boots that, I mean, some of that stuff I see making its way back into things because it could look cute with a legging or like a really tight fit jean or something. Other things like ruffled collars on like a jersey knit sweater, not coming back. That should not come back.
I feel like I have that. What do you mean?
It's like a sweatshirt. It's like sweatpants material shirt.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And it has a ruffled collar, like a scoop neck collar with ruffles.
Okay, that's at Target.
Ooh.
Sounds cute.
Ew. I don't want it to come back.
I love a dressy sweatshirt.
I feel like it's in the vein of a lot of the clothes that Emily Henderson tries on in her Instagram stories. Like it's very much
statement top.
Yeah, like trying to recover days gone by. Like
no, shop the women's section at Target and that's what you'll see.
The new Selena Quintanilla collection available
by Universal Threads. Okay.
What about what's going on your end?
Oh gosh. Okay, so Fizzle. I'm just gonna say it. It's so basic, but the holidays are just kind of annoying me.
I mean, they're kind of annoying every year.
I know,
are we just I've been like, or humbugs. Like,
it's just too much, and I've been like thinking about it a lot this week because I just don't want to be exasperated or like not like Cecily is just beyond excited, of course. So
yeah,
I started realizing that part of it is just like this whole gifting thing, and I don't go over the top anyway, or don't even feel like I should, but I've realized it's like my rebel spirit being triggered, that I don't like this expectation that I should buy shit for people that I love right now. Every single year, like, because I don't like external expectations. So every single year, this is what happens. Black Friday comes around, Cyber Monday comes around, and I'm like, I'm not ready to think about that. And then every single time I end up buying the stupid stuff that I could have just bought, but being told to buy it on those days really annoys me.
But you do you want to buy gifts for people, or do you even not want to do that?
Yeah, like I think about it through the year. I'm like, oh, that'd be a nice Christmas gift for so-and-so, or oh, and then I just don't do it. And then I realize like I get triggered during the holidays because the expectation is, and it's like there's a deadline. Like we gotta have a wonderful morning on the 25th.
Oh,
I feel like being told what to do.
I don't know what's in our family. I mean, when we were kids, we definitely had a lot of gifts, but like my nephew's the only one now, and he gets gifts, and we'll buy stuff for him, but we don't spend a lot. Like we buy him one thing, and then we contribute to an account for him as like our main gift, which is more like we do that throughout the year. But like with the adults in my family or even really close friends, we just I think we've all come to this agreement, like a social contract, where it's like, please don't do this to us. Like, please don't make us feel bad for not getting you something. And like, if we go,
I don't have like a huge shopping list, and Cecily's easy to please. I just
get her
don't.
something with a unicorn or an alicorn or a mermaid.
Or a sequin. Or a midriff.
I don't really get into the whole, which is so weird, but I feel like it's this capitalist driven thing of like, go buy a bunch of stuff for a bunch of people, bunch of junk you don't care about. And I really would rather give something that I really wanted to give to someone, and maybe it's not on Christmas, but maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, but then I'm not, I don't know.
Then you feel like you're not participating in the holiday. Like,
right. And then it's like, I want to enjoy the like relaxing fa la la of it all, but I don't want to be rushed around and feel like I'm, I don't know, exasperated.
Aren't you kind of glad that you have like a really big reason to not set foot in a mall this year, though?
Oh, totally.
Like, I love it. I really hate the mall. I hate it. I don't like the mall. I don't like the atmosphere, the energy.
I just don't like this like deadline being imposed on me. And I think it's partly because like my sizzle is like, I get very end of year, let's wrap it up. I like that
let's get this over with.
No, I like the goals. I guess I like the deadline of the end of the year that we're gonna like close that chapter, and I like to stuff things into it, like but it's all things that I like or want to do, like reading. Like I set a book reading challenge for myself every year. No one cares, like there's no pressure. I just like it, and I haven't hardly read all year, and now I'm reading like 3 books a week because I want to hit my 55 books.
Okay.
And I want to have a lot of my work processes cleaned up, so I don't want to go into the new year with like my bookkeeping the way it is, and I'm starting a new software for it. And now I want to redo my proposal, and I want to do all the things.
Basically down the rabbit hole.
I go down the rabbit hole. This is like my Virgo meets my 7, and I want to like be organized and ready and a whole new person January 1.
And you feel like you can't do all of that and pay attention to holidays and give your full energy.
So the holidays are just distracting, because I guess there's something about it that's like energizing to me. So the end of the year makes me energized to do the process and organization work, and I'm not feeling like I want to like spend that time socializing and paying attention to my family.
I mean,
it's like they're not on the same program.
Yeah. Okay, so what I'm hearing is you don't want to be obligated to things.
For sure.
And it gets really hard at the holidays because there's a lot of expectations put on us, whether it's to buy things or to be with people or to have special things and do that, which can also become a major distraction from your regular life or business that's going on. Like,
you know what it is?
I'm just like school.
I'm diagnosing myself right now. I think because I'm feeling rebellious about this holiday shit that I don't really want to do.
Yeah.
It's making me have more focus on the things that are productive. And then that feels more like a more important thing to do.
Yeah.
So I don't feel, it gives me more motivation. It's like ADD brain a little bit too, like that pressure that I'm ignoring gives me more focus. Yeah. So it's like me being in my room and there's a party in the rest of the house. Like, I love that feeling. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I'm like the opposite of FOMO. Like, I love that I'm having like my own isolated moment while everyone else loses their minds.
Wait, so what's the opposite of FOMO then? Like
JOMO.
It's joy. The joy of missing out.
I'm such a weirdo. I used to, like, my parents like tell me, I used to, like, my own birthday parties when I was like 4 years old, I would peace out and everybody would be like, where's Becky? And I like tucked myself and went to bed.
And you're like, everybody have a great time. It was so nice to see you.
There's something so comforting. Like, I love falling asleep on the couch when other people are up watching movies. Like, there's something so comforting to me. I love working in coffee shops where other people are.
So you're okay with that stuff going on, but you just don't
like
want
the white
all the
noise.
expectation. You don't want it all falling on you. And as sort of the central figure in your household, a lot of it does fall to you.
God, it really does.
Like maybe if you just told Terry, I'm sorry, Christmas is on you this year. Just can you handle that? And
but then there's no advent calendar, and it's just like he'll do a fine job, but the little things are like I feel like what makes him special, and it's just those little. I don't know.
We miss the first Sunday of Advent. We have like my little Advent calendar, my Advent candle set, and it like totally missed burning it on the first Sunday of Advent. Like that's this year. Yeah, oops. Like we'll do two this Sunday.
And I would not care if it was just me, but Cecily's like, Mom, there's still no chocolate in the Advent calendar. Like,
okay, I'll get
anyway, all right, I got problems.
Here's a dry Skittle that Desmond left behind.
Here's some raisins.
Okay, that's a lot of fizzle.
That was a deep dive.
Unpack. But the upside is
I've got problems. Oh, the upside is, sorry, that was a sizzle actually. So my sizzle is that I'm working towards starting a fresh set of books in 2021. I'm going to start using Studio Designer, which this kind of could dovetail into the episode quite nicely. For all of my vendor management, my furniture invoicing and proposals, tracking, and most importantly, all of my books are going to be inside of it, so no more QuickBooks. And me and our friend Claire hired the same bookkeeper for our separate businesses. And we've also been hiring her to train us because she uses the software. So it's been so exciting. I stayed up till midnight working on it last night on a Friday. And I feel really, really good about it. So that's the kind of stuff. That's where my head's at. They're not like jingle bells through the snow.
I mean, okay. I'm with you. I mean, I know it's exciting and I see why you would be excited to like get into that stuff and see it start coming together. And I think part of that is the optimism of starting a new year is like you want to get to the cool things that are in store. And this year, probably above any other year, makes it feel like it's an obligation to like, can we just get through the holidays? So
but I kind of want to do both. Like, I wish I could clone myself that I could.
One of you has to suffer through the holidays and one of you gets to get excited about the new year.
One could be enjoy the holidays and be like mommy making cookies, and then one of us could be like getting shit dialed and ready.
I mean, I think that's everybody.
I know.
Too. Like that's a lot of people who are
solopreneur life.
Right. Is you're constantly having to make that sacrifice of like, am I going to spend the time and energy to find a really awesome Christmas gift, or am I going to phone it in on Christmas Eve trying to get something for someone pulled together? I would say find a way to let yourself off the hook a little bit somewhere.
I know.
With something like it's so hard, but I don't know. There's got to be a way you can, I don't know, drop something. Probably not. I don't know what it is. Now it's
been my sleep and water.
Yeah, that's probably. I'm not a healthcare professional, but I'm gonna say that that's probably not a good idea.
I agree. You are right.
Refer you back to one of our early episodes, Dare to Self-Care, and give you some homework.
Tammy Hackbarth, if you're listening to this, I'm sorry. I'm going to do better.
Yes.
I just drank a sip of water.
Oh, perfect.
On that note, should we head into the party?
It's time for another party, and you're all invited. Pew, 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 pew.
Okay, we've been wanting to do this for a long time, and this is a big topic. So we're going to we have a few talking points about trade vendors.
Yeah, this is when we get questions directly from listeners. Thank you for those of you who are writing in. We really appreciate hearing from you and what you're dealing with. And it's probably such a big topic that we have some offshoots of this planned for other episodes, because it can be hard to digest such a giant part of our business. You can't just put it in like 45 minutes and be done.
And we're probably not the number one experts in the entire world.
Absolutely not. But we know from a lot of you that you are starting or early in your businesses, and you're looking for those things that really help elevate your professionalism in the industry. And I think trade vendors is where, for me, it's probably the biggest difference maker in running a business.
Yeah, and I think that just to give us a little bit of a pat on the back, not really, but what makes us, I think, ideal to talk about this is we're not so far into our businesses and careers that we forgot that transition point. Like, I think we still remember the pain points of how we found our vendors and what we look for and all that. So
yeah, we haven't had time to like glaze over all the fine details or the pain points, and we're not like nostalgic.
I'm still figuring it out.
Oh, me too.
Like what works for me. So for the most part, we're going to be focused on purchasing vendors, right? Like not necessarily trades.
Not like who they are.
No, not like contractors.
Correct. Yeah, this isn't like a wallpaper hanger or plumbers or things like that. Like not construction trade. More like when we say to the trade, we mean to the design industry. So it's interior designers, interior decorators, some architects would be considered to the trade. Even some contractors, like general contractors, purchase through to the trade, but usually it's for a lot of hard material type of stuff, not soft finishes or
we're
decorating.
Talking about product. So whether it's furniture, accessories, some materials, how that all works.
As opposed to retail.
Yeah.
And I think that's what's hard is a lot of these retailers create programs that they call like trade program or designer program, but they're not the same. Like,
oh my God, there's one. We're not trying to throw people under the bus, but there's one that's 5%.
Toot toot, here's the bus. Like
5% is not a discount.
20% is not a discount.
No, I mean 5% is not even covering tax. That's bullshit.
Yeah, my general thought is
don't even bother.
If they can put it on sale and it eats my discount, then it's not worth it to me.
No, and it's like, don't even have that as an option on your website if you're not, like, if your company is not in the position to do that for whatever reason.
Yeah, and here we're talking about like big boxers or the stores you see at the mall, West Elm, Crate and Barrel, Pottery Barn, the whole Williams-Sonoma conglomerate. Like those are retailers. They're not passing on really big discounts to designers. They never will. The amount of the discount will not justify the time and energy we spend. And there's nothing exclusive about them. Clients can just go buy it whenever they want.
Right. And it's not to say that I've never purchased from any of those places, but it's like very rare, and I really try not to, because I don't know about you, but I am in the business of making money.
Yeah, I want to make money off of product, because a business model where I only make money off of design fees is not sustainable. Like,
No.
that's kind of like break even money. I mean, you can make some decent amounts of cash off of it, but you're not really building in a lot of wealth generation for yourself. You're not going to be able to fund your whole retirement plan with billable hours. You're not going to be able to give yourself vacation time with with those billable hours. Selling goods is where that money comes into play.
Right. So I like to think of, I mean, this has taken me a while to get my head around too. Like in the beginning, I didn't understand how it worked. So just know if you're new to this, like it takes a little time. Do some education, probably read some books because there's just a lot of a lot of the freight and procurement stuff is kind of like tricky to understand when you haven't done it before. So this
Yeah.
is just going to be a general overview. But I like to think of myself when I am purchasing things for clients that I am a store. So
Yeah.
I am West Elm or Pottery Barn, or really, like I am my own little boutique
Yeah.
that has no door that you can walk through. And I buy things wholesale and I put my little price tag on it and I sell it.
Right. Just like how Target, West Elm, like all these places, every place we go to is buying
So
everything at a much cheaper price, marking it up and selling it to the
yeah, so
consumer.
the buyers at Target do not go to Walmart to buy their toothpaste to put on the shelf. They have to get a much better deal on
Yeah, they
that.
buy
So,
wholesale through Procter and Gamble or whoever makes the toothpaste.
yep.
And the more they buy, the more they buy and the more access to consumers they give to Procter and Gamble, the better price they're going to get for that. And in general, that's how furnishing and accessories work too. If you do have a physical location, you may have more foot traffic on items. So a trade
You also have
vendor,
more overhead, so you need better.
you need to move more merchandise that way.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, there's generally pricing for designers with location, like retail locations or shops, and those without. But it's that same mentality of,
Right. So that's just, I mean, obviously that's like a super simplified way of explaining it, but I don't think a lot of designers think that way. So you see this comment a lot in the groups too about I have a client and they want me to show them all my receipts for all the furniture that I bought them.
no.
No, you don't go into, I'm just going to keep saying Target, and ask the manager to see how much they paid for the toothpaste. Like, it's the
Yeah.
exact same thing.
That tube of toothpaste cost them 30 cents. Like,
And they charged you $7. Like,
oh my God, that's some nice toothpaste.
I kind of like it. It has to be pretty on the counter.
But that's
But
it.
like,
Yeah, you're in the right
there's a
track. Like
reason
when
for it.
we're buying, that's ours. So yeah, we didn't buy 200 footstools from Vietnam, and yeah, you get a better price because of that. But I think it is important to create that understanding upfront with your clients of, I am a retailer. Like, I have a tax ID number, I have a reseller's permit, so I'm authorized to act as a reseller. I'm the store. I am the
Yep.
captain now. Like,
And that's why you buy things without tax and then the client pays it. But now you're
yes,
capturing the tax, you don't own that money, so you have to pay it
you give it to
back.
whatever agency within your state collects sales tax. That it does add a layer of complexity. When I started reselling was when I knew that I could not do things without a bookkeeper anymore, because I couldn't keep up with everything fast enough, and impounding, collecting the tax, making sure that I separate it from, my general funds. It adds a whole new level to things, but the the income that's generated or the revenue that's generated from reselling items covers the additional expense and administration of it.
Right. And once you have the understanding and process down, then it's easier.
Yeah.
So I just like to just want everyone to think that way, because we like to kind of bring the emotional side of this up sometimes. And I think I felt this in the beginning, like, wow, I could buy this chair for $100 and I'm going to charge it to my client for $300. That feels so weird. Like, I don't know. There's some, I don't know. Not everyone obviously would feel this way,
but
but
that's
we
how,
feel
like,
guilty or like we're doing something shady or something. But really, this is commerce. Like, that's how it works.
and I think the hard part is to explain to customers that same thing is already happening at every retailer they go to. So when they walk into West Elm and they buy a sofa or a chair or whatever the item is, unless West Elm made that piece of furniture, which a lot of times they don't, but let's just
Anymore,
say
yeah.
for the sake of argument, whatever the sales price is, the actual purchase price sometimes is as low as it's like 66 or 70% lower than the MSRP that we see on the sticker.
Right.
And that's why stores like Macy's or wherever can afford to put things on clearance for $2 when, it was a shirt that sold for 25. And they're still, most of the time, they're still going to make money off of that, or at least break even.
Yes. So I think like that's just like, before you get started, just understand that I don't over explain this to my clients. Like, I usually don't get pushback. A lot of it's written in my contract.
Yeah.
But I
But you
can't
don't have to
explain it if I need
justify
to.
yourself to them.
No. So if you already have this feeling of understanding that I am selling this for a reason and I'm making money off of it because I'm a business, not your girlfriend, like,
yeah,
that's kind of just the mentality to start. And then it's building your repertoire of people you buy from. It's actually pretty easy. Like, that part I thought was going to be a lot more complicated than it is.
Like finding your vendors.
Is setting up accounts. Yeah.
Oh yeah, once you have your
Paperwork.
legitimized formed business with your tax ID number and all of your like seller's permits and all of that stuff, once that's all done, getting the trade account set up is really not a big deal because you have everything they need at that point.
Yeah, all I've ever needed was my resale number, my business card, and a website.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. I will say there are some accounts you cannot get as a one-off designer. Some are not set up to sell to small design firms.
Correct.
But that's rare.
But there are options which we can tackle in other future conversations too. But there are some places will only sell to designers who stock, or you need such a huge
showroom.
Yeah, or you need such a huge opening order that it's going to take you a while, like to get to a $25,000 opening order. And there are designers and showrooms who will still offer you a better price than the retail pricing as another designer. And
yeah, I buy a lot of my upholstery from, like, I buy a lot of row sofas for clients, and there is another design firm who has a showroom that they have a designer to designer program. So I still get good pricing from them, and I don't go direct to the manufacturer.
Yeah. And there are options out there. If you're finding a trade vendor who you can't qualify for an account with, they can usually refer you to someone near you who has an account.
Yeah. So we just have to start kind of asking, and really, how would you say you found your favorite accounts from the beginning?
One of the ways is whenever I'm on a site that is retailing, so whether it's a store like Burke Decor or even Wayfair, I pay attention to the manufacturer of an
Repair
item.
Gold is.
Yeah, like if you're on those sites, they usually give away, which if you're just like the general consumer doing a really cursory overview of a web page, you're probably not picking up on it. But you can start finding the sources mentioned that are wholesale to the trade sources. And I don't know about you, but for me, I find there are certain things I'm constantly gravitating towards. And then I'm like, oh, there's that vendor again. Like they're just making stuff that I like. And that's then kind of where I want to head.
Mm-hmm.
I also pay attention to who gets tagged on other designers' Instagram feeds, even if they don't say this sofa is from, or the tag might not be right over a piece of furniture that I like, but if they tagged a vendor, I will go through and look at that vendor's site later.
Yeah.
And find them.
Yep, those things I do. In the very beginning, my number one thing was having other designer friends.
Yeah.
So, like you and I and Claire, we do this now, or we share sources and I don't know, cute things that we find or whatever. But in the very beginning, I wouldn't even have known where to start or where to look. So I had a friend who'd been in the business for a few years, and she really kind of like helped me understand the vendors she used, when she used them, quality differences, price differences. And I kind of just had like this really rough document that I would, because none of them made, until I went to market, I had no like internal catalog of go-tos. Like I didn't know, like I need an edgy dining chair. Where do I go? Like over time you build that repertoire of
Totally
go-tos, but in the very beginning I had no idea. So I just picked a brain of a designer who I admired, and she was really generous and helpful. And I just started a document. So it was like just kind of my, here I go for lighting, here I go for rugs, here I go for case goods.
Yeah.
So you can like really have like your own understanding.
Yeah, I think it's I feel like we should probably give a quick example of what we mean when we're talking about the pricing strategy though, because I think it just doesn't really sink in until you imagine what's involved, or how
Price difference.
like what the price differences can be, um because that's where it starts to get really well illustrated, I think, for me, was particularly, we'll talk about in future episodes, attending markets, but going to market and seeing the label where it says like the MSRP, like the retailer's recommended price for this sofa is, $4,000. And then you see stocking dealer price, meaning you have a store, and then designer pricing, like us, we don't have a store or a retail location, and you still see that sofa is like, $1,200 or whatever it is. Like it's
Right.
half of, usually, like I would at least say half of the MSRP.
Usually.
It's like a good place to start. And depending on the vendor, sometimes it's a bigger, it's better than others. But to think about buying a $5,000 sofa, you can buy it for $2,500 and then mark it up and sell it to your client. Like that's a lot of money. That's $2,500 if you sold it at retail in your pocket, and you didn't have to, you have to do something. You have to sell it. You have to handle issues. You have to track the orders, place them correctly. You have to be the point of contact. Like there is work involved. But think about how long it would take the billable hours to earn that much money.
Totally. And in addition to all of what you just said, like the per project earning of those dollars, it's also all this time that I'm talking about with finding another designer to ask, researching websites, getting to know lines, making these
Mm-hmm.
documents that you're learning about, and going to market, like all of that training and knowledge base is what our clients are coming to us for, and they don't have it. So
Yeah.
the more time you invest and spend, the less time it takes you to find that perfect chair. And you just start recognizing pieces that are out in the wild and like, oh, that's like you sent a photo. I'm like, oh, that's pieces from Noir.
Yeah.
Like because I'd already placed it in a project. So anyway.
Right. And I think that's what makes our jobs faster too, is that you develop this sort of first string, second string type of mentality for vendors and people that you want to work with, companies you want to order furniture and accessories from, who specializes in art, who specializes in mirrors, who specializes in upholstery. Having
who's
those in
easy
your
to work
go-to,
with, whose shit always comes damaged. Like, I mean, that just, I'm still building that understanding and information, and it takes time and experience.
Right.
And
that's kind of part of the taking your punches, like in a new
design school training in
so
the wild.
Yeah, I would say that's sort of the warning that I would give to any designer is everybody can develop their own strategy for working with the vendors, but I don't share the name of the vendor, and I don't even share the name of the furniture, like the piece, because sometimes the same piece name is used and resold through someone else.
Oh yeah, because that's how I find out what Studio McGee where they get their
Studio McGee is a huge reseller.
I think they started changing the name, but they used to not.
And some of this is going to happen, but I guess what I share with clients is you're not hiring me to just pass along my discount. Like that's not what I do. Like am I going to try to get you better pricing if I can? Sure. Am I going to try to help you get access to things you couldn't just get on your own? Yes. Like there are better things than a Pottery Barn sofa. There are lots of better things, and some of them are comparable in price, but that's not what they're selling there, and you aren't going to find that.
Well, and to be honest, from what I've learned in the groups, this has changed. The industry's changing a lot, and now there is a lot of overlap. So Crate and Barrel might sell the exact same row sofa that you could buy directly, but it's still worth selling if you're the salesperson for that line. So instead of Crate and Barrel being the salesperson, you are, and you know about it and you're recommending it.
Right.
So it gets trickier, and it's sometimes hard when our sources overlap. Like,
and they will.
West Elm now sells Four Hands. Like, that's annoying.
Yes.
They used to just make all their own stuff. So, and they buy it at a way better price, and
because they buy it by the shipload.
Yeah, the client figures it out. Like, our markup is it's nil.
Markup is tough because I don't subscribe to a single set markup rate, but I aim at 30 to 35%. And I know that that's give or take depending on where you're at. Some businesses are very rigid. It's X% no matter what. That's just what we do. Others will say, you know what, like for me, it comes down to if I want a client to buy something that's like we set aside in the budget, that $5,000 for a great, a nice sectional or a piece of furniture or whatever it is. If I really want it to fit and it's like the piece that I think is going to really sing in the design, and I've got to give up 2 or 3%, 4%, 5%, whatever the number is off of my markup, sometimes I'm willing to do that because I really want them to get that piece.
So, yes, I do the same. I kind of do mine opposite. Well, I don't know. I guess let's just talk about our process. So when I'm sourcing for a client, I have my go-tos that we already talked about, and then I find a piece. Some websites are really nice, and they actually we talked about. Oh wait, yeah, we talked about this in Just Stop.
Yeah. Bad
They
vendor
actually will put
websites.
what their MSRP or MAP price is on the item, which is amazingly helpful.
Yes.
But most don't. So if my cost that I can but purchase whatever a chair for $300, and I know that chair is sold at other retailers like Burke Decor or whatever, I will go find out what their price is. So I'll Google or try to see if I can find what the MSRP price is, and then I discount it from that. So the client is getting a little bit less.
I
This is
feel that.
probably not the best way to do it, but if I can't make like at least 30% off of it, then I probably won't source it unless it's like the only thing that will work.
And usually there are other things to pick from.
Totally.
It's good when clients tell you like, oh, I fell in love with this specific thing. And you're like, well then, okay, that one specific thing, let's do that. And then you can source elsewhere and make up your money on something different.
Yeah. So when you think about it that way, like if I know that the client, so I'm trying to find this chair and I go to West Elm, like I want the client to, I know we've debated this before, but I like the idea of one of the values I provide is I have access to things, but I also have access to better pricing than they could go and get it off of Burke Decor. I'm
Yeah.
not splitting my discount. I don't give them I never like state what I'm going to discount anything at. I just give them a little bit of a better price than they could just go buy it themselves for.
Right.
Sometimes it's only like 5 to 10% off. If I have a really good um, price on it, then I might show more, or I might like make it look more valuable. But that's why in my furniture proposals, I show what their discount is off of MSRP.
Okay.
So
So they can like see the value even if it doesn't impact what you're doing accounting wise or pricing wise. It's showing them here's the savings to you.
yeah, I never show them what I'm buying it at. It's just what it's discounted off of retail.
Yeah.
So that way too, I mean, I feel like it's a little bit of a psychological thing.
People want to feel like they're getting a deal.
Even like people with money. And
especially people with money because they didn't get it by just throwing it out wherever.
Yeah. So that way so like the software that I use, I can always see what percentage I'm making off of it and make sure I'm making money, giving the client good value. And also it kind of like hopefully prevents being shopped to where I know what they can get this on their own for, and I'm not necessarily beating that price all the time, but I'm not making it ridiculously higher.
Right. And the drawback of them, like if they do shop it, because that comes up a lot and I get it, some clients care and they're going to spend the time to like Google image search something. And it's like, yeah, that's annoying, but let's just accept that as that's gonna happen. Like at some point it will. And okay, fine. Just have ready how you're gonna handle it, because I try to reinforce for my clients, it's like, yeah, you could go and purchase that item right now at that price. Yeah, maybe there is a sale or whatever. Then you're handling it. You're gonna be responsible for anything that comes up, any damage, returning, problems. You order the wrong size. You order the left-facing sectional instead of the right-facing sectional. All of that.
They just dropped it on your driveway and they don't bring it in.
All of that. And
all of the garbage
most of,
that comes with it.
Oh God. And some clients will say, oh, it's just one piece, I'll handle it. My contract does say that purchasing needs to be done through me, but also I go back to our a really early episode of Contracts for Creatives when we had Ashley Hightower on, the contract attorney. And it was like, yeah, you can have something in your contract, but how far are you going to go to enforce it? Like, am I going to derail a whole project and create bad mojo
for a dumb
over?
pendant light?
Yeah, like sometimes it's just, we got to know when not to take this stuff personally and when to keep moving. And hopefully the goal would be to show the value in what you do early and make sure they understand why you're important to have included.
Yes. And one more thing that I usually tell clients this in the beginning is, I think this might actually be in one of my documents, is I do not spend your time scouring the internet for the world's best deal, because by doing that, you're paying for my time to do that, and you ate the savings. So
right, yeah, if it was going to save, $300 off the price and you spent 2 hours finding that best price or negotiating the best price, it's a wash.
Well, and yeah, sales change, and yeah, I'm not,
by the time you present, there's no more coupon code, like,
right. And now I'm like stuck with the price difference, so whatever.
That's important to talk about. That price change of that marking up allows you to be able to accommodate for things that you don't feel like you don't have to nickel and dime a client about something. If money got built in somewhere and there were some extra, maybe the pricing did change on another item, having the markup gives you space to absorb some of that without starting to be petty with clients. And it also gives you a buffer that if an item does go wrong and you have to eat the cost, maybe you ordered the wrong item and paying to have it restocked is more expensive. The buffer that you build in with a higher price margin in that is that hopefully you can absorb that cost without, putting yourself broke.
Yeah, because some of the overhead is the risk that we take. So
right.
A lot
so you
of
end up with a cool side table because you ordered the wrong one, and you take that as a loss, or you hold on to it to resell it, or you sell it to yourself. I mean, that happens to a lot of designers. It is pretty common, actually. So I would plan for that in the markup. And there are designers out there who pass on their full discount and just charge hourly for everything. There are designers who charge MSRP for everything. I think everybody needs to find what works for them, but everybody's making money off of this one way or another.
Unless you're buying retail.
Yeah. I only use retail now for e-design.
Accessories. Oh, yeah. E-design or accessories, I do too.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not going to spend forever for a one-off small project like an office e-design. I'm not going to manage that for clients. It's too much. And most of that is because of the receiving, installation, delivery, that whole process. Maybe that's
talk
what
about
we should
that for a minute. I think we could have a whole episode about this, but maybe let's just do a quick explanation.
Yeah, like when you order wholesale from trade vendors, almost all of them will not deliver direct to a customer's home. Or if they do, there's upcharges to the cost of those items. So it then starts to become cost prohibitive. Almost all of them will require you to deliver your items to a receiving warehouse where they collect everything.
There's a loading dock if it's needed.
There's a loading dock. There's a crew. They open everything, inspect it for damages, inventory it, document it, take pictures of it usually, rewrap everything up, protect it.
Yeah, that whole inspection process is so key. Like, I will have smalls delivered directly to me sometimes, like little light fixtures or whatever. One of my last projects, I had hardware, like cabinet hardware, delivered to me.
Yeah, a lot of small stuff, vendors will drop ship it directly to your house. Or
but like on a small scale, like I opened this box and it was just for a built-in. So there were 6 pulls. I opened it, looked to make sure it was the right thing. I did not look at all 6 pulls, and one of them was just some random one they put in. So, of course, I didn't realize that until the cabinet guy was installing, and they were short a pull for a while. So, that kind of stuff, it's annoying for us to do it. Like,
and it could have been saved. I mean, yeah, it was small, but in that case, could have been saved by the
if that was a
receiving
dining
warehouse.
chair, if that was like one of the dining chairs, and
like, oh, 5 dining chairs in blue and 1 black. Damn it. Like,
and I had a photo shoot scheduled or whatever, like, and it was sitting there for
or the
2
client
months.
sees it.
Yeah, and you wasted 2 months of it just sitting there, or then it goes out of stock. Oh my god, why did that happen?
It does happen. That's why we do it this way: is send it to a receiver. It's all behind the scenes. You're in control of the optics to the client, and that's where you get that big reveal, like, moment of the receiver can collect it all. And a lot of receivers also install, and they provide that white glove delivery service where they hold it, store everything until everything's ready for installation. And then they come with their moving guys and the truck, and they unload and unwrap everything, and they carry it in. And I say, move the rug to the left 3 inches. And then they do. And I say, can you move it back to the right 1 inch? And then they do, like, the whole thing. Yeah. And they do that. And they open the rug pad for you under the rug. And they put little bumpies on, little fuzzy bumpers if you want them to. I mean, that's white glove delivery.
Well, yeah. And going back to like the philosophy, this is a luxury service and an experience that we're trying to provide. And if clients just wanted one-off random deliveries showing up at their house for the next 3 months, they would have just ordered it themselves. But to have this big, like, 1-day install where their house goes from like drab to fab in 8 hours.
From blah to ooh la la.
Then this is how it's done. So
yeah, it sounds like an indulgence. It kind of is. And some clients will not get that. They'll be like, well, I can be there for that. And it's like, no, literally there's 40 things that are coming into this room. If you were to be here to receive everyone as they came from the supplier, it's weeks of your life, and clients cannot be responsible for that. I've never drop shipped directly to a client because things do arrive wrong or damaged, or they go, oh, I don't know if this looks right. Oh, why did we buy this? And you're like, oh, Jesus.
Yeah.
And that's the risk of that.
And I had a really hard time with this concept selling it in the beginning. It took me some practice. And just recently, I have created a document about freight and receiving that kind of does some of the legwork for me. I think we should do a whole episode on this, but
I agree.
Really helpful to explain, like, you have to do it in the beginning. Clients need to understand how this works. And it's just like the professional designer way.
Yes.
And there's lots of reasons for it. So yeah, let's do a whole...
We'll come back to that, but that shouldn't stop anybody from setting up trade accounts and going through that process.
Ask your designers in your area who they use for receivers, because that is like the major key to it, is you do need to have a receiver already before you start signing up. But
you can search, I mean, you can Google search receiver warehouse and ask them for designer references.
I'm in a pretty small market. There's only 2 in Sacramento, I think.
God, there's so many in greater Los Angeles, Orange County, and they're everywhere. But some of them will cross state lines if they're close to a major metro area. Like they will, remember, their job is to make your life easier. So you might think that paying for them to do that is going to be really expensive. And certainly it could be if you want like 8 guys to show up to do an install or something, but that's sort of the expectation of this type of job. That's what is already happening for, I just can't, we have to express to clients, you're already paying for this in the price at Crate and Barrel. they're already sending it to a warehouse, collecting it, helping you arrange delivery. Like that's all, it's already being done. Would you rather give your money to someone you don't know at a big corporation, or would you rather support my small business?
Okay, so receivers are a must. Don't be scared, just find one. You can figure it out.
It's you might stab around and like try one for one project and then realize, oh, the next project I'm definitely going with somebody else if there's other options. Don't be
Again, the
afraid to do
biggest
that.
thing is you have to figure out how you are selling it to the client, because this isn't a cost that you carry.
They pay for it.
They pay for it. So I don't mark up my receiving or installation from them, or freight. It is a cost I just pass directly to the client. I'm actually starting to not even take the money and just let the client pay the installer receiver directly.
That's what I was going to ask. Because what my process was is I treated it as a reimbursable expense, and I would just the client I would pay, the client would then pay it back, and usually it's coming out of their final invoice or something like that from their retainer. I like your way of making it very clear of this is something we're doing, it's yours, like it's all at the warehouse and you're paying for it when the bill comes.
It's just like the wallpaper installer. Like I spec the wallpaper, I might even buy it, but you're paying the installer directly. So I'm trying to give you a quote, so you'll have like an estimate of what it might cost, but just know you're going to need a check ready for blah blah on this day, directly paid to them.
And a good receiver will be able to give you a quote when you spec a room and you pull together everything that's going to go to that project. A good receiver will generally be able to give you an idea of that between when you expect everything to arrive, which can change, but they can give you an estimate or a number. Do you use a set percentage to kind of give clients an idea of what to expect from that?
I've been using, I kind of can know based on who the event, like who I'm sourcing from, but I have been estimating like 15 to 20% for freight and receiving of total purchase cost of furnishings.
Okay.
I've been giving that as a ballpark estimate, but I think I'm going to change it to 17% and actually flat rate it going forward.
Interesting. So some projects you might lose a little, but in other projects you might make some. In the big picture, it'll just work out.
Yeah, the old way I would reconcile it and actually,
and that's the annoying part,
underestimate it and then get paid back for extra freight or whatever. But 17% is more of an overestimation, and I'm exactly like I might actually make money off of that a little bit.
So you're saying that's your freight from the trade vendor to the receiver, and that includes the installation and delivery?
Mm-hmm.
And that's, I would usually do like freight, shipping, receiving, delivery, and then the full and I just keep calling it white glove because I want to make sure that listeners understand it's not here's a box on your doorstep delivery. No, it's they come in, unbox it all, move it around, clean it back up, put it exactly where it needs to go according to the design plan, take all the cardboard, the wrapping, the styrofoam, all of it, put it back on their truck and leave. And I was anywhere between 15 and 20. And I think it's good to land around, I like your idea of landing around 17, because if it is closer to 20, it's 3% on one job, but on another job where it was 15, that difference of 2% comes
and
back
with this
to you.
the new way that I'm doing my books next year, I'm going to be able to track that and check.
Like you could run the numbers and go, ooh, actually we need to be closer to 15, or we need to be closer to 20 next time around.
Yeah. But I've done it enough that I've tested it. I'm like, 15 is usually pretty good. So, but I don't order, I'm pretty cautious about where I order from. Like I try to stay on the West Coast, and those are all things I think about that.
Yeah.
Just impact.
Yeah. We've got some future episodes there that address questions like that about where our vendors located, and so we can talk about that in sort of
better
our
like ways that
market
like
ways.
you can really streamline and make a lot more money, but limits creativity. So
yeah, I think
it's just
this is
different business models. Yeah.
a good starting point, because it can be overwhelming, and I think it is just about getting in there, getting started, finding some places you like, and then I mean, you can get really excited very quickly by realizing the money making opportunity. I think for me, the biggest takeaway of working with trade vendors was reinforcing the value add of working with me as a designer.
Right, because this is how I do things. And if you want to work with me and you want to be a full service client, you need to do it this way. Otherwise,
Yeah.
I can offer e-design, which is just not as great, not as thorough, and I don't do any of that legwork.
Yeah, you're going to do everything, and the result will never look as good. It will never be the same quality, the same finish, the same attention to detail, because I can't do that on that scale.
No.
So
And you're trying to meet their budget, so that's cutting budget means cutting our time. So
yeah, that's the way I see it for e-design. I really don't I don't do a lot of it because clients realize what it doesn't include, and then they're like, "Oh, well that's not really what I want." What they want is what they see as full service design, but they think it's going to come at like a discount somehow, and I'm like, "No, actually doing e-design or distance type of projects take more time, energy, and effort because I'm not there with you. I don't get to be in the space and catch things as quickly, and I'm not really making much. So you're not getting my time investment because I can't overspend
right,
on
and I
such a
can't
small number."
get as invested creatively either.
Right.
But yeah, I mean that's something that I'm working on with my offerings. That's one of my process projects I'm working on this month. I personally do like to offer a lower budget service, but I'm tightening that up so that it's clear what you do and don't get.
Yeah. If it's a lower price, it's fewer services offered.
Yep.
Because I would rather be chasing the next big project, the next
Right.
big client, the next money-making furnishing deal. Like, I'm not going to make it off of one nursery or one dining room.
Right.
So the short of it is work with trade vendors, start putting a list. If you have access to a design center near you or a trade showroom or a design district, start talking to you. I mean, the real of this is, and this may be hard depending on generational divides, you actually have to talk to
Other
reps and
designers.
showroom
Oh.
managers and
I was gonna
customer
say other
service reps,
designers.
other designers, which is a vulnerable position to be in. But trust me, like, you can do it. It's not hard. You're not the only one with the question. You've got to get used to doing that now, because it's going to happen throughout your whole career every time there's a new vendor or supplier or someone you want to work with.
And honestly, once I started doing that more and like creating this podcast and some of the things that have come from it, it's made this job so much more fun. Like when you're working by yourself, it's so less isolating. There's so much work for all of us. We're not in direct competition. I don't know. I mean, helping each other goes both ways. And I've gotten
Yeah.
so much like emotional support, business support, all of it from reaching out to other designers, even in my own market. So
Yeah. If we could
most of
actually,
us are really nice. Not
just don't
all,
catch me
but
when I'm in a just stop mood. But otherwise, I'm very generous with my time. And I will say this, if we can plug this, for our listeners, and I know we've talked about this, but we haven't really like put it in the podcast. For everyone listening, we love hearing from you. We appreciate your comments, your direct messages, and everything through Instagram or emailing us. But something that does even more for us, if you have taken even a little bit of advice that's helped you, what we would ask of you in return is to take a few minutes to write a review on your podcast platform of the podcast, and to give us not just the rating, because it does let you give just a rating, but to write a review carries the most value for us. And kind of the why behind it is it's basically the whole podcast algorithm of showing our podcast to listeners who haven't seen us before. It helps our podcast show up on whatever podcast platform they're using. It shows up as suggested podcasts. It raises our rating, which increases our visibility. So if you think of it as like how Instagram, the more comments and interactions you have, the more people will show up suggested. That's sort of how podcasts work. And we depend on that growing audience to reach designers. And we, as of now, have run our podcast as a charitable endeavor. And it is not free and it is not cheap. We, for the podcast, still pay for hosting. It obviously takes a time investment from us away from our families and our businesses. And while we love being able to give back to the design community, in the future, we also see this as being a platform for us to be able to see and meet all of you, to be at events, and to bring on sponsors that we believe in to help us not run this as a nonprofit. And we depend.
I mean, we treat it like a business, but yeah, we're still working on.
We run it like a business, but if it was being run as a business, it would be a nonprofit business. It
would be in the ground, yeah.
Yeah, and that's not a long-term model. And one of the ways that we could use your help and support is to follow us, like us, comment, send us DMs, share it with friends,
share it in any design groups you're in. That's really helpful.
Yes, and then
those are definitely all free ways you can support us.
Yeah, and the review is a big one. Writing a review and sharing that actually does a lot, even though I know it can be weird to write something. You don't have to write much, but the rating and the review.
Your favorite tip. Ooh, one more thing if you want extra credit, because you're the hottest of the youngest designers.
The hottest and the youngest.
You can go to our website and sign up for our little newsletter, because we are really hoping to launch a survey and we want to be able to ask you some questions.
And we are working on a platform that allows us to deliver to our listeners resources, reference guides, and things like that. Now, it involves a lot of behind the scenes and work for us to set up the systems to do that. And at a certain scale, it doesn't quite make sense until you have a decent repertoire of listeners that have subscribed that we can share that with. And we'd love for you to be there for that. So we're going to keep asking you to do this, because we're hearing from all of you in other platforms. And if you really want to show us the love, it's giving us subscribing on your podcast platform. So we guarantee we show up for you every week, rating us, writing a review. That's like
signing up for our newsletter.
That's like the super whammy of
follow us on Instagram.
Which some of you, I know some of you already are, but here's what we will say. Out of the thousands of you that we know are listening because our podcast host tells us how many of you are listening, not all of you are following us on Instagram. And that's kind of fucked up.
Oh, we don't need to. We'll take whatever scraps you can give us for now.
But if you've liked us, and you've liked our platform and you've learned something from us, please
these little things
show us some
totally
love.
Help. because at the moment, Shaun and I are just looking at each other and talking, and we don't hear anyone else in the room. So it's hard.
Yeah.
Like sometimes it feels like, is this thing on?
Send us episode ideas. Send us questions. We do get a few, but I would love it if every episode we could take some time out to answer a question, kind of like letters from the editor of, oh, people wrote in about this, and spend a couple minutes on it, or generate sometimes we hear a lot and we're like, that's a whole episode. That's not just 5 minutes answering a question. And we depend on that from all of you. So I know you're out there. We know you're listening. We even see at what minute mark people stop listening. If we don't know who you are because it's anonymous, but we know you're out there.
We don't know.
But we would love to hear more from all of our hot young designers.
That was a good PSA.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think let's put a bow on it. Stay hot, designers. Thanks for joining this meeting of the Hot Young Designers Club podcast.
If you liked what you heard, please subscribe and leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. Check out the show notes there for links to things we talked about today.
We are keeping the conversation going on Instagram, so don't forget to like, comment, and follow at Hot Young Designers Club.
You can find Rebecca on Instagram at Studio Plum.
And you can find Shaun at Renstead Interiors. That's WRENSTED.
What up with that?
Ooh-wee.
I've been frozen for 100 years. What did I miss? Or a person in a coma since 2019. How are things going?